In Python, when should you use print and when should you use return? Here's a function that calculates the nth Fibonacci number. If we give it the number 20, we'll see the 20th Fibonacci number. Here's a function that does nearly the same thing, except it uses return instead of print. When we call this second function, it seems like it does exactly the same thing. What's going on here? One of these functions prints and the other returns, but they seem like they do the same thing. Both of our functions are outputting in some way, but one of them outputs to the terminal screen by printing, and the other outputs to the code that called it by returning. If we assign a variable to the output of these functions, we'll see what's going on a little bit more clearly. If we point the variable x to the output of the second function, we'll see that x captures its return value. If we point the variable x to the output of the first function, we'll see that something is printed out, but x doesn't seem to have a value. The value of x is none, which is the default function return value. What's going on here? The place where you're able to type code and then immediately see a result is called the Interactive Python Interpreter, or the Python REPL. REPL stands for Read, Evaluate, Print, and Loop, and that's how the REPL works. Python first reads what we've typed in as we type code, then it evaluates the code, meaning it runs it. It then prints any value that's returned, and then it loops, meaning it waits for more input. This third step here, the printing, is what we're seeing. The REPL will automatically print any result that isn't none. So when running code at the REPL, it's sometimes hard to tell whether a value was returned from a function or whether it was explicitly printed. Let's call our second function from a Python script instead of from the Python REPL. What do you think will happen when we run this script with a given Fibonacci number that we'd like to see? When we run this program, we see nothing. We don't see anything because we haven't asked to print anything. Let's change this last line to print the return value of nth Fibonacci. Now when we run our program again, we'll see output. When we run our code from outside of an interactive Python prompt, that is, the Python REPL, Python doesn't print unless we ask it to print. So when should you return from a function and when should you print? Most functions return a value, and most functions do not print. Typically, the functions that do print instead of returning are the surface level functions in our program, whose sole purpose is to call other functions and then print things to the screen. For example, this main function here in this quadratic program calls print. But the quadratic function that it also calls, it doesn't print. It returns instead. The quadratic function is meant to return a value back to the line of code that called it. But the main function is meant to display output to the user of this program. Functions in Python have inputs and outputs. Their arguments are their inputs, and their return value is their output. Since return is used to pass a value from one bit of code to another, most functions need a return value in order to be useful. From the Python REPL, if you call a function, Python will automatically print out the return value of that function. But from within a Python script, you need to print explicitly if you'd like to see something printed to the screen.